Hi, it's me, Gage, and welcome to the final part of Rick Taylor versus Luther Strode. This is the fight, and, well, explanation as to see who would win. So make a prediction now if you've seen both parts and think who's gonna win. I will wait, but honestly, I hope you enjoy this. 3, 2, 1. And the winner is Rick Taylor. Now, sorry that the fight was so quick. It's just that I was on a bit of a tight time schedule to animate that. Besides, the research I was doing was very difficult, therefore I put most of my time on the research rather than that animation. But still, I hope you enjoyed it. Now, I'm going to go over why Rick wins. Yes, Luther is faster, more skilled, and more durable than Rick. There's no denying that. He just blatantly has those advantages. However, Rick has certain things that make this fight go into his favor, however. One of which is his healing. Yes, Luther can also heal and has fought people who can heal. However, Rick's healing is a little bit above that, as he is easily able to regrow a severed limb and regenerate from most damage, including the attack known as Blood Siphon, or Splatter Siphon I mean. And if you recall, that move is unavoidable at close range. Therefore, with Luther, whose only way of fighting is at close range, there would be no way for him to really avoid that attack. Therefore, if they were getting into a brawl, and Luther was getting an upper hand and Rick needed to heal, there'd be nothing to stop Rick from healing. So, yes, the fact is, with all that, Rick's healing is just more practical for this fight. Plus the fact that it needs blood to be done, this fight's automatically going to be bloody. Rick has a strength advantage over Luther, and Luther is able to rip people up, so blood's going to be a very big supply here. And besides, using it kinda like balances it out anyway, because you absorb others' blood anyway to do it. So it kinda just evens it out at the end of it all. Another thing is his other splatter moves. Now, Luther could not be able to predict these with the precog ability, because that's things that he can think of. They're not something that's going to tell you something on an opponent you know nothing about. So these things from some guy who he has have no way of knowing what he could do would not be able to see these special abilities that the mask grants. And if he tried to use his special sight that allows him to see through people, yeah, I forgot to mention that, he can see through people, but it's not X-ray. He can, see injuries and see your innards. There'd be no way for him to know that that attack would come, because in the game we can actually see Rick's skeleton. And it's a normal skeleton. There's nothing special about it, there's no special spikes underneath, it's just a normal big skeleton. So, even if he did try to do this, precog would not let him know what's coming, therefore this would give Rick the element of surprise. So Splatter Smash would completely catch him off guard and do serious damage, or just Splatter Slash, which would slice him up like butter. Since special blades, and in fact even normal blades, have been able to cut him, and those wielded by people as strong as him or stronger are able to slice through him very easily. Jack the Ripper speed blitzed him and nearly cut him to ribbons. Not to mention, Rick also has weaponry like giant meat cleavers, chainsaws, rapid-fire shotguns, and all other kinds of deadly weaponry that he could use to help for the fight. Rick has an advantage in healing, his skills, and the weaponry, and his healing and all that. Sorry if I repeated myself a bit there. Let me just go through this a little bit quick. Give me a second. And one more thing I have to mention. Luther has fought several people who are stronger than him, and they have all given him problems. Like this giant guy. Luther literally rips out his heart. And you know what? He's still alive, which catches Luther off guard. He turns around and grabs him. Luther can't do anything. And if this was Rick, Luther would be dead. Because Rick would probably use Splatter Siphon to impale him in every way and then slice him up with Splatter Slash. And Luther couldn't do anything at that point. And he can't really do anything here. This guy does die of blood loss, but he's still able to do this. And that's very impressive. And if Luther ripped out Rick's heart trying to do the same thing, Rick's gonna heal from it because his guts don't get sucked back up. And if he can regrow an arm, then he can surely regrow a heart. Think of it like Jason's Voorhees' healing factor, but on steroids. Jason can regrow organs and large parts of his body, but he can't regrow a limb. Rick can do all of that and a limb. Or several limbs, actually. Which makes Rick very capable of easily doing this stuff. As the fight's going to continue, Rick's going to keep healing until eventually he gets an upper hand to kill Luther. Into a similar fashion, like this. Yes, Luther is durable enough to take all of normal Rick's punches and be able to keep on going. If he can survive something like this where he actually gets sent through a large portion of trees, he can take most of normal Rick's punches. However, that's not the thing he's going to be worrying about. Normal Rick can still probably beat him with all that power he has anyway, since he's stronger than him. He could just wear Luther down and kill him normally. However, here's the thing that earned Rick the win. It was his Berserker mode. Once Rick goes into this, it's pretty much over for Luther. Not only does Rick gain a boost in his speed, strength, and even healing, this pretty much means he's able to catch up to Luther, or at least close that gap a little bit more, making it harder on Luther. And if he does hit Rick, he's going to slice him to pieces. And that's going to be the end of Luther. That's just it. If this guy's able to slice these things that are beyond the durability of a human by far, and keep fighting all these different things, even fight clones of himself with the same skills as him, there's no doubt that he can defeat Luther Strode. Yes, Luther may have more skill than him due to being a little bit more experienced, but then you have to think of it like this. There's that theory that the Terror Mask actually takes control during this form based on how you see the world, which does make a lot of sense because of how he acts at the very first time you use this. And if that's the truth, then the mask definitely outclasses Luther, because this thing's been alive since before time even became a thing in its dimension. It was a slave, it came here, and it killed one of the corrupted. Like I mentioned, that's a deity level being, and it killed it. It having Rick's body, being able to fight, being able to overpower Luther like those other people I mentioned, being able to have the blades in his body to be able to slice through Luther and being able to do that, having this great healing factor, being able to spam all these extremely overpowered attacks and keep healing, that's just something that Luther can't really combat. Sorry. Whew. But if Luther did try to use the precog ability, like I believe I've mentioned, he wouldn't be able to see what Rick's gonna do because of all these options. Now, after he uses these, maybe, but again, here's the thing. Luther doesn't really use precog that much in certain battles. When he fought the Librarian, he only used it at the very beginning to get a scope of what he's gonna do. In the fight with Cain, I don't think he used it at all. In the fight with Jack the Ripper, he didn't use it, and that was when he was almost gonna die from that stuff. He only used it when he was, like, outpaced by, like, 2 people or in a group of people. That's only when he does it, when he's surrounded by a group. Rick doesn't fight like a group. He fights by himself with the mask, and that's not really gonna rely on something. And if Luther tried to speed blitz, remember, Rick has some level of speed himself. He's able to barrage certain enemies with a barrage of punches, so he has his own level of speed, and I'm sure he's faster than most normal humans, due to his size and leg stride. So, yeah, you have all this power, speed, and all this stuff that Rick has to help close these gaps, and then you have these blades and everything, and the skill of the mask, who's been alive for this long. Luther is just outclassed at the end of the day. In a lot of ways, I think of Rick a lot like Cain. Cain outclassed Luther in strength. I believe he also beat him in speed. He had better skills and intelligence. Rick's able to beat him in strength by a country mile. because of him being able to stop a meteorite's impact to hit the ground and then throw it a large distance. That's at least tens of tons, while Luther's max is like 2. Rick's lowballing that to 10 tons obliterates anything he can really do with strength-wise. And here it's even proven. Kane is beating Luther here, and Kane is weakened to a very bad point, and he's still beating Luther. Kane has beaten an army, Rick has beaten an army of demon monsters. Out of all of this, yes, Luther's not as, say, skilled or fast as Kane, but still, when you look at things kind of like this, where he has Luther in a bear hug, Luther can't get out of it. He's losing. He even admits it right there. I can't beat you. That's what I think of it when he's fighting Rick. He can't beat him. Well, maybe if he uses certain methods to fight him, but that's with everyone. Everyone has some percentage to beat an opponent, but for a vast majority of the percentage, Rick just takes this. He has everything to help him win this fight. And the only reason because of that is because of what the writer did. The writer made Luther so much weaker than what he should have been. If the writer never said anything like that, then Luther would have been much, much stronger. And if the writer didn't say those things, I would have given the win to Luther. I would have been thinking he's fast enough to dodge gunfire, making him so much faster, actually able to speed blitz him. But just going 60 miles per hour, while that's very impressive, trying to speed blitz someone like that, trying to whip around them while they can summon blades at will and spin in 360s, you're going to have a very hard time doing that. So, overall, Rick just had the things to help him win this fight thanks to the mask. Now, here's a question that I actually have different ideas to. If Luther destroyed the mask, I don't think he can. If the mask is a spiritual being who's immortal in his own world, and was able to kill one of the corrupted, which is a deity-like being, it took the form of the bone mask, that mask's not breaking, and if it does crack, it's just gonna heal itself. In the original 3 Splatterhouses, you do beat the mask in the first and final game. However, these are giant and entirely different boss fights, which all give Rick a run for his money. And if we were to scale that to the modern game, Luther has no way to defeat the mask. If he cracks it, it's just gonna heal itself, most likely, or just protect itself, or just not budge at all due to its power. The mask is just not gonna go anywhere. So, yeah, with everything like this said, Luther is just at a disadvantage. Rick's raw and massive strength advantage, his ability to keep healing from so much stuff due to the massive amount of blood gonna be spilled in this fight, his skills, and the fact that he has the terror mask backing him up with things that help him fight. Kind of like think of a manager in like a WWE fight. The manager can come in and help and like talk to the ref or like distract him to help you. That's what the mask is going to be doing here. He's going to be helping Rick, telling him what to do and do other stuff. And I help it. Normally he just says like things like kill it, but sometimes he does say good things that actually help. Like tell him how to solve certain puzzles or do certain things. So overall, Rick Taylor and the Terror Mask take the victory. But this is only for the reboot Rick. If I used the Rick Taylor from Splatterhouse 1, 2, and 3, the original arcade games, Luther Strode would decimate him no problem. As feats there have no real structure or scaling like this game does. The only reason I was able to scale Rick up to this power is the meteor and the fact of we having the West and Rick actually interacts with him. So overall, this was Rick Taylor versus Luther Strode. Tell me what you thought. Do you agree or do you disagree? And if you do disagree, tell me why. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed.